Glue Wednesday. You see, it's my belief that we don't have to get over. We need to find ways to keep it together. And my glue is G.L.U.E. God's love undoes everything, because that's what keeps it together. That life is about going from one puzzle to the next. You're either a small, medium, or large piece of each puzzle in your family, social, or business relationships. Yet, no matter what size puzzle piece you think you are, without you, the puzzle is labeled as incomplete. Hey, and welcome to Glue Wednesday. I'm Sporty King, your host. I named it Glue Wednesday because so often people tend to refer to Wednesday as Hump Day. Now, to me, hump has a connotation of the need to get over. And what I think we really need to do is keep it together. I want you to still see Wednesday as the middle of a traditional 7-day week, but recognize that it's the point that keeps the beginning and the weekend together. And that's what we want to do, is focus on getting it together. Yet, not only is that the glue for keeping it together, but my glue is G.L.U.E. God's love undoes everything. Because when we want to keep it together, we have to keep it together through God's love. So my topic for this broadcast is POP. P-O-P. Patience of patience. Now right away I love it how we get to have a literary lesson. Because what we have to recognize is that our consonants make our words. Let your consonants be your confidence. See, it's not the vowels that make the words that help us become better communicators. It's the consonants. It's the way the P's pop, the T's twist, and the C's caress. That's what makes a difference. So that's why one of my sayings is, let your consonants be your confidence. All right? So take your time, and every now and then just read aloud and focus on pronouncing your full words and making yourself a patient of patience. On this broadcast, I'm also going to recite 2 poems. I'm going to recite from 2 of my books, as well as introduce you to my 3 first Sportyisms. I live by principles I call Sportyisms. And the Sportyisms, the 3 that I'm going to use today are my original 3, which are the base of my business and ultimately of my life and my message. The first one is actually the key, and it's Sportyism number 2. And it's one I used to always tell my salespeople. Listen to the paragraph, not the sentence. Listen to the paragraph, not the sentence. See, I taught my sales staff what I teach yours, to become better sales listeners. And it's a principle that parents, supervisors, leaders, and teammates can benefit from as well. When we open our minds to absorb ideas in their entirety, we put ourselves in a better position to communicate and to be communicated with. And isn't that all we want sometimes, is to be understood? Let's allow people to finish what they're saying before we judge the content of what they're saying. Now, a huge part of communication is patience. So this first poem is from a book called I Found Out I'm Dying. It's a storyline in poetry that reminds us that when we have a healthy attitude about life, we realize that physical immortality is not one of our options. Each of us is dying from the day we're born. Get over it. You're not going to be here forever. So this first poem is actually called Fruit of Thy Labor. And it's a poem about the fact that sometimes we place a higher value on our time than we do on someone else's life. Don't think so? Think about the time when you were more concerned about someone being late to meet you than you were about their safety, whether or not they were in an accident trying to hurry because they know that you didn't like waiting. And I'm not saying that you ought to take your time and let the world be thankful that you plan on showing up. What I am saying is that I believe you honestly make every effort to be on time when we have to meet. So if you're not here, my first concern is for your health, for your safety. When someone establishes a pattern, that's when you reconsider where you wait or how you meet. I wrote this poem in 1995 while waiting to see a potential client with whom I didn't have an appointment. He had agreed to see me at the request of a counterpart with whom I did have an appointment, who felt that my services in my speaking business might be more appropriate for this other department. So I waited an hour and a half for this guy's other meeting to finish. But instead of focusing on the 90 minutes that I waited, I focused on the 39 years I had waited to talk to someone about paying me for my gift. So this poem is called Fruit of Thy Labor. Actually, it was no work at all. Instead, it was a blessing, a forthcoming, a catastrophe. You made me wait patiently for what seemed like minutes, though actually a lifetime of ascension. And as I learned to take another step, my footing found solid ground, for my faith neither feared nor acknowledged seepage. My reward rejoiced in hidden silence, as my request spake not in words, but comfortably in the word. My cup is a basket, is a tub, is a river, and its running is a flow that remains calm by your touch. Me being a wonderful collector of words and lover of words, I like that last line, those last three lines. My cup is a basket, is a tub, is a river, and its running is a flow that remains calm by your touch. Can't you see that each one of us just adds a little bit more, and then the pour gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that becomes the beauty and the joy of how we get to grow through one another. Take your time and enjoy your life. Most importantly, enjoy it today, for today is really all that counts. And that's Sportyism number 3. We always wish today were tomorrow, except when we're with loved ones. Then we wish tomorrow were yesterday. The key is that we have to constantly realize that it's the quality time that we spend with someone that makes a difference. Haven't you looked forward to say, oh man, I can't wait till tomorrow, I'm going to be spending time with so-and-so. And then when tomorrow gets there, you're hanging out with them and y'all are having a ball. And you're like, oh man, I don't want this to end because I'm going to lose spending this time with them. And then the next day, they're gone and you're gone and you're like, man, I still wish it was yesterday because we had such a good time. If you know that in advance, can't you just embrace today and the moment that much more? Because what you want to have is a memory of a great time that you spent with someone. You don't spend your time randomly. You choose who you spend time with. Even if you're one of those people who likes to talk about, well, I got to get the negative people out of my life. Bulletin, you got to keep the positive people in your life. Because the truth is, like attracts like. Opposites don't attract. Like attracts like. And if you've got negative people in your life, guess what? You're one of the negative people. So what you've got to really do is take a look at yourself, because that's what you can control. And I'm not saying, and maybe I'll take that back just a little. You might not be a negative person, but you may have negative tendencies, or you may like to be in a negative environment and really not be conscious of it. So when you see it through the other people, you're seeing something that maybe you don't like and you don't want to be around, an element that you don't want to keep in your life. But guess what? You have become a part of that element, and you actually are flourishing in it the longer you stay in it. So you can't get them out of it. What you have to do is get yourself out of it. And that's going to take patience. So remember, there's always a time for you to be patient and for you to be a patient. And our lives, you know, that's the funny thing. This is Black History Month, but, you know, it's so funny that, first of all, Black history and everyone's history is every single day. But have you ever thought about what history is? It means that you right now are part of history. You won't be here one day, and someone's going to be looking back, talking about something that you did. Have you thought about how someone could not actually have a car? Have you thought about people not having shoes? I mean, I even think about how when we talk about Africa and we think about the Bible and people in biblical times, who decided which animals weren't going to harm them and which ones they could cook and eat from? How often were they able to really walk in the night and not get attacked by a lion? You know, there's a lot of common sense things which I call sometimes come on sense. Because sometimes don't you just want to look at somebody and say, come on. You didn't know that? And so that becomes the key, is recognize that we have really grown and people have been valuable to our growth in and throughout history. And that's what you're going to get a chance to do. So start doing things with your family. Start creating traditions. Start making things happen. You know, one of my proudest titles, I got a lot of titles, and, you know, I've had titles over my years and letters behind my name. But you know what my most important one is? Uncle. Uncle is the most important title I have. I got 22 nieces and nephews. And what I do is I spend time with them figuring out how to create the legacy of who I'll be. I want to give them, this is kind of how I think of stuff. Just like I said, control your vocabulary. Don't let your vocabulary control you. I'm kind of a control freak. But I like controlling my life because this is what God has given me to do. Because God allowed you to control your life, and don't you dare answer no. Because He has. But have you been willing to take control? Because that becomes a big step as well. We laughed, we were talking before our broadcast, we talked about how some people talk about, well, I think outside the box. And then I said, yeah, but sometimes they're thinking outside the box, thinking about how to get back in the box. Not the worst thing out, because P.S., by the way, sometimes that box is your comfort zone. And if you can only function in your comfort zone, in the long run, you're contributing to society. But now you have to decide, do I want to be a contributor or do I want to be a trendsetter? I always say that we have to recognize that life is about going from one puzzle to the next. You're either a small, medium, or large piece of the puzzle. And that no matter what size puzzle piece you see yourself as, without you, the puzzle is incomplete. So we need everybody to do what they do. Embrace what you do and who you are. Stop complaining. Oh, sorry, we need some of you complainers too. Because you complainers help us people who are solving things keep a job. See, so again, you see how it just comes and goes. We start to say, oh, these people, then say, wait a minute, I need those people. Because we need to be who we are. That's the only thing you really have control over. You have control over yourself. So take that time to do it. So my second poem is from my book, which is a poetic tribute to God's greatest gift to and source of mankind, women. And the book is called, Do You Have Any Idea How Fine You Are? I'm going to actually be reading the closing poem, but I'd like to read to you the introduction to the title poem as well, because it connects to the closing poem, and you need to see how that connection works and makes a difference. So remember, because I want to say this. This is a wonderful message of self-esteem and life, self-esteem and value to share with the women and friends in your life during this calendar Valentine's season. Remember, Valentine's Day is love that should be celebrated throughout the year. Don't let your celebrations be restricted to a calendar day. If they are, then you actually don't have love. All you have is a calendar celebration. Okay? So here's the introduction. Mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, friends, you are the object of countless secret admirers and worthy of that praise. This title poem should remind you of the awe in which you are held. Enjoy the complimentary looks and comments given in good taste. Your thank you will not always be hounded by wolverines, but your smile will always be appreciated. And what I encourage you to do is reread the last stanza, for that is the key. Inner beauty is the essence of outer beauty. Life is about passion. Be passionate about someone or something, and let it be known. We must all realize that we are always on display. Someone is checking you out. Don't fool yourself. Instead, feel good about yourself and let it show. So that's the introduction, and it walks into the poem, Do You Have Any Idea How Fine You Are? And you can look at, I'm going to tell you now, you can go to my website and you'll see, and you'll get a sample if you can read that poem. But this is the closing poem to that book with a similar introduction, which you will also be able to read at the website. Mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, friends, you are the object of countless secret admirers and worthy of that praise. Isn't it good to hear that a second time? This final poem will remind you that someone, somewhere, is thinking about you. It doesn't have to be a man, for just as you are blessed to be the right person, you are blessed to have the right people in your life. Think about a different loved one or a reason every time you read this poem. It's called, You Kept Me Up Late Last Night. I could almost make out your figure through the darkness in which we sat. So I sat and I listened and I felt your every word as they lingered in the black. I closed my eyes, but I opened them shortly, for I missed you in that span. Your fragrance enticed my nostrils. Your voice welcomed me back. Your actions called for my attention. Your wisdom rang in my ear. You kept me up late last night, and you weren't even here. I love that poem. That's my favorite, one of my favorite poems, by the way. But though it was obviously written in a romantic vein, as I wrote that to my girlfriend when we were in college and she was on study abroad, the blessing compounded itself years later when a friend of mine asked me if she could use the poem to eulogize one of her homegirls. Don't you see the power in your words? Do you know how it made me feel that someone would take my words and use them a different way? Have you recognized that there are times where someone will take your words and use them in a different way? See how it can be a positive and a negative? So that's why it comes back to listen to the paragraph, not the sentence. Control your vocabulary. Don't let your vocabulary control you. Because you see, we all keep someone up late, hoping that they got home safe. Have you ever said, call me when you get home, let me know you're safe? Mm-hmm. And then how about that first time you let your teenager go out on a date? And you were soundly asleep with one eye open and one ear on the nightstand waiting to hear the door open, the key clicking the door. That's if you grew up in the projects. I think y'all in the suburbs, y'all probably waited to hear the car roll into the driveway, okay? But the key is it doesn't matter what you did. Thank you for being patient with someone and experiencing the sleepless nights and the sleepless moments and the restless moments. That's often your gift of compassion. And it takes you to my first Sportyism, which is Sportyism number 1, give. Sooner or later, you'll catch up to what you've received. You see, material possessions are exchanged. When we give of ourselves, our life, our love, our laughter, our compassionate care. Patience of patience. That's what we are. And let's add the word trust to the mix because it touches both words. Patients have to trust their caregivers, and when you exercise your patience, it's because you remember and recognize that you have to trust God. It's because you're smart enough to trust in your track record and laugh at your lack record. Patience is about recognizing that you're on an important turn in the victorious cycle that so many people mistakenly name the vicious cycle. It's believing in Murphy's cousin, Mercy's law, which says whatever can go right will go right. Then trusting that you just have to hold on because sometimes hanging in ain't enough. It's because you realize that life is about going from one puzzle to the next. And you are a small, medium, or large piece of the puzzle in all of your family, social, and business interactions. Yet, no matter what size puzzle piece you see yourself as, without you, that puzzle is called incomplete. Consider booking me to share messages like this, as well as my consistent message about power, being powerful and positive when positive doesn't seem like an option. My information and books are available at sportyking.com. And that closing poem is even available as a frameable keepsake. There are plenty of different options for you to enjoy my sharing of my gift. I've waited this long to do so, and I think you're worth the wait for me to do it even more. So I'll see you next week, right here on the Wake Up Call Network for G.L.U.E Wednesday. My name is Sporty King. Ciao.